interviews are usually used by employers as a step before the main face-to-face interviews. Now, they're especially common for the more competitive jobs because they're quick and easy to conduct for employers. And currently, with the coronavirus pandemic, employers are being forced to use more virtual methods of interviews, such as your video interviews and such as your telephone interviews, so you've got to know how to pass them. Personally, I think you can use a telephone interview to your advantage because one, you can't be seen, which means you can use notes. Yeah, that's not illegal. Secondly, the telephone interview is kind of like the warm-up act to the main interview event. Although you've got to take it just as seriously as a face-to-face interview, having that in-between step, being interviewed by the company, will give you more confidence because it means that the main interview on the day is going to be less unknown. Now, I've been lucky enough to pass every telephone interview that I've had, and I had a lot after I graduated. So I've put together my top 3 quick-fire steps to passing an interview. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and I would absolutely love for you guys to subscribe to Bloom for more careers advice like this. If you'd like to support my channel and hit that subscribe button, I'd be hugely grateful. Now, don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, this is just a casual chat, a casual conversation. I don't need to do any preparation. No, this is still an interview, and what you say and how you perform in this step of the application process means that you may or may not be invited for that main interview. For every interview, whether it's a telephone interview, face-to-face or video interview, you've got to practice and prepare your interview answers. Here are some common interview questions that you can get asked in a telephone interview, so hit the pause button and jot these down and start preparing some answers to these questions. For the behavioural questions, you want to prepare answers to those questions using the STAR structure technique. Now, you can check out my video which explains exactly what this structure is and what you need to include in each of the STAR elements. Sticking to this structure is going to make sure that you remain clear, concise, you avoid the waffle, and that you actually answer the question being asked. For the "what do you know about our company" question, you've got to make sure that you prepare by doing your research on the company, and you want to be able to summarize what it is that company does in a few sentences. So get on Google, get on their website, look at the news to look at any articles or features that the company features in, and I'd also recommend going one step further and hitting up the social media pages of that company you're working for. You'll see projects, campaigns that they're currently involved in, and get on their LinkedIn page as well, because that always gives you an insight into what that company is currently doing. If you feed in that information to your answer, you're going to come across as massively passionate and genuinely engaged with that company, which is going to be a massive tick for that hiring manager. Write down your prepared answers to these questions, and especially if you haven't really got much interview experience, practice saying your answers out loud to make sure that they flow, to make sure that they're clear and meet the structure, and to make sure that they sound okay and that you feel confident saying those things out loud. Now, before the interview, you also need to go back to basics. So I may be stating the obvious here, but let's just talk about your tech setup and the space around you on the day of your telephone interview. You want to be recording a voicemail message, a professional voicemail message, just in case that hiring manager calls and can't get through to you. On the day, make sure that your phone is fully charged, especially if your phone interviews at the end of the day. Charge it beforehand. You don't want to be plugged in and like strapped to a wire throughout your interview. You want to be as relaxed and cool and chilled as possible, and you want to make sure that your battery is not going to cut out halfway through the call. Make sure you find a quiet space with no background noise and distractions for the hiring manager and no distractions for yourself, and make sure that you've got a cup of water or a cup of tea sat beside you so that your voice sounds nice and crisp and clear throughout the conversation. My top final tip, and this is absolutely what has led me to pass every telephone interview I've had, and that is to use prompt cards for your prepared interview answers. There's only so many questions you can get asked in an interview, so if you've done the prep work, use that to your advantage in your telephone interview and turn those prepared answers into prompts that when you get asked certain questions, you can just read off that on the day and come across as really confident and like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing here. Now, I don't mean produce like an entire script of the whole answer, like word for word, because you're going to run into the danger of sounding robotic and coming across like, yeah, you're absolutely cheating in this situation, which is going to be an absolute no for that hiring manager. So what I do is take a piece of paper for each of my prepared answers. I'll have my header at the top, for example of a time where I overcame a challenging situation. I'll have my star, structure, situation, task, action, results on the page, and then just a few words or maybe like one sentence per part of the structure for my answer. And again, I just use that as a prompt on the day. I'll sit in a room and I'll actually sit on the floor and have maybe 4 to 6 prepared prompt cards in front of me with the different answers to different types of questions that I can be asked, so that when I get asked one of those questions, I can just look over at that prompt card rather than having like loads of paper in a notebook and shuffling through and getting myself in a kerfuffle on the day. Do this, guys, it really helps. And these prompt cards will come in really handy for the main interview as well, because again, there's going to be the same sort of questions asked in that main interview, so you can use these prompt cards to revise from and remember your answers off. Don't forget to have your CV and cover letter in front of you too, because you may get asked about your CV. I've certainly had times where I've submitted a CV and I've done so many job applications that I don't know what I've ended up saying on it. So have that in front of you just in case they ask you about that too. If you follow all of these steps and make sure that you conduct yourself in a really polite, professional and friendly manner, you'll be sure to do well on the call. Remember to listen. Try not to be too dominant, let that hiring manager lead the call, and make sure that you're not too robotic in yourself, Throw in elements of your personality. You still want to be coming across as a real human being, and don't be afraid to ask, how are you, at the start of the conversation. So that's my top 3 quick fire, simple steps to passing any interview. Wishing you all the absolute best of luck. Go smash it, and don't forget to check out my other videos on how exactly to prepare for an interview, the STAR technique, and how to answer some of those really common interview questions. Thanks again for watching, guys. Bye.